Given the direction that this week's episode of the Apothecary Diaries went, it's probably a good thing that MaoMao got a conversation of consent before it wrapped up because she went around, no joke, huffing, smelling, without even asking if that was okay. Granted, she does recognize that she probably should have asked first. But when MaoMao, who is essentially a cat, just gets on her big thinking cap. She's like, wait a second, this smell, this could be. And she goes and smells all these different women to figure out the scent and how they all relate to what is essentially poisonous for pregnant women. Granted, she's Sherlock Holming her way through this, but I'm generally wondering because you don't really see it, but like, imagine this is actually reality and you have someone like Lady Gyokyo who has to explain to other rich nobility and ladies about why one of her top servants is huffing them. If anything, I would have to imagine MaoMao is like lowering her value in this world because how do you explain that? Like, even if she has results, man, like that's just some unhinged shit, man. If she was in any other, like, royal courtyard, she probably would have her hands cut off probably within the first few episodes of season 1, let's be 100%. Of course, if you want to support my work and see my full thoughts to these episodes, do have a Patreon where we got those full live reactions if you're so interested. So, like with season 1, they kind of sideswipe you. They basically, similar to Truck Coon, when you're least expecting it, they run you over. Just rather than getting reincarnated into a new world, we kind of in a daze get back up and say, what the hell? Alright, let's see where we're going. So a majority of this episode was just like super chill, kind of similar to last week, but that's really no different than season 1. If you go look at like the first 6 episodes of season 1, which I've recently watched, yeah, there are some intense moments within that, but yeah, for the most part, it's kind of a slice of life. The way the show functions is it acts like a slice of life in a royal courtyard. And yes, there's a lot of political conspiracies and mysteries and deeper plots that link up over multiple arcs. At the same time, it is the daily life of MaoMao the servant and situations around her. So a lot of it functions like we are almost like a GoPro on these servants' shoulders and just watching their daily lives. It's not really that toxic of an environment more often than not. And I think if you compare it to a lot of shows or a lot of time periods in this kind of era, yeah, it'd be a lot worse than they're probably dealing with. It's pretty chill. But then when things really start to click and you're like, wait a second, where are they going with this? And the first big moment that kind of raised an eyebrow was that when they it's almost like a little market that comes to town, and different ladies spend different amounts. Now Lady Gyokyo was pretty much the one who spent the least because she's the most modest. But all of the outfits were pretty much designed with a pregnant woman in mind, which is potentially a coincidence, but at the same time, are you sure? Because most of the sashes would be around the stomach area, where these ones were around the chest area. But if the stomach is going to be growing over multiple months, obviously you wouldn't want to buy something that you couldn't really wear properly for all too long. That one could be a coincidence because what they're implying, if true, is that they already know about a pregnancy, but how would they? Like, that's kind of insane if that's true. So that could be a coincidence. And you could even argue the scent as well. While yes, could be deadly to pregnant women, at the same time, it could also just be scents that people enjoy wearing and don't think much of. I mean, look at the lead-based face powder from season 1. Yes, it was used as an attempt to kill and hurt, but at the same time, it was vastly being used by the population. So it's like, I do know they're building into another assassination plotline. I think it's very clear, but a lot of these individuals could be coincidences. And MaoMao says something in the episode about how, like, she's very confused because she's like, what about this is a coincidence and what is this, like, intentional? Like, am I drawing conclusions where there are none? And she's going a little insane about it, like even the tea. I mean, we already have a murder by the end of the episode, and when you see the tea getting poured, and I'm thinking to myself, are you better not? Like, we started season 1 with an attempt on this woman's life and her child, and it seems like we're starting season 2 with the same damn thing happening. I think this is like the show's greatest strength, is how rather than it being like you initially think in the beginning of season 1, like episodic, almost like the serial cases of the week sort of a thing, it's always linked up to a bigger thing. Season 1 had quite a few moments. We had a girl fake her own death and escape, never figure out where she went afterwards. We had the attempt on Jinshi's life. All these things connect to a bigger conspiracy, and rather than just saying, okay, well, here's this newer one, it feels like we're still in the same conspiracy, but we have no idea where the final destination will lead. And that's really exciting, because for the most part, this was a chill episode. It was fun. It was just wandering the palace and interacting. The girl who helped catch the cat in the previous episode, get a little more with her, and I like her personality. It's just like the show doesn't need to go intense in order to be enjoyable, because many episodes in season 1 were not like overly intense. It was just watching characters interact with each other, or my personal favorite, which we got a decent amount in this episode, is watching a character like MaoMao just completely oblivious to Jinshi's lack of shortcomings in the genital regions, and comments being made, and just like the misunderstanding there is just so freaking hilarious. But yeah, like the show does get better when they really start going into the deeper conspiracy, and I think the best part is when you realize in season 1 that things are connected beyond a singular arc of the week, but rather it's this mass. It's like you start off where like you have a little pin on your board. You're like, oh, it connects over here, and this one connects here. But then when you pull the camera back, you realize there's 1,000 freaking strands that are all connecting to the centerpiece. And you're like, wait a gosh darn moment, this is why this has like a dozen light novels, isn't it? I can only begin to imagine where the show truly wants to go. And I truly hope this little girl, who was almost dead in the first season very early on, gets to make it into her teenage and adult years, because I'm honestly very interested what her story would look like, and if the author would go the direction of allowing her to have a deeper importance to the plot rather than just this little girl who needs protecting. There's a lot of potential, but yeah, I would definitely say I enjoyed this week's episode more than last week. Not that I disliked last week's, I just think it had more going on for it. And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, we were returning last week. We weren't just going to immediately drop into maybe a potential assassination plotline, nor were we gonna have MaoMao sniffing people without consent. Though possibly that might have happened, because that is in her nature and she is a cat, but fantastic. She learned the value of consent. Jinshi pulled a big dick move saying, I want the used leaves, and that's the tea he drank before storming off. But yeah, there's a lot going on, but I feel like I just don't have an idea of how they would already know about the pregnancy. So I feel like potentially the dresses could be a coincidence, but at the same time, it feels all too likely. I don't know. You let me know your thoughts down below. Theories if you got any. If you don't know the source material, of course, leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. All right, so today we got Rookie, Aracito, Alexan Free, Peaceful Hermit, Crizzle Wiper, TMG Gaming 999, Jorald, and we also have Jacob McDougall. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.